Tomorrow, PSG travel to Monaco, and honestly, this game is way more interesting than it looks on paper. You've got a Monaco team close to full crisis mode, a defense that's leaking goal, and a coach under pressure, but also a squad with real individual talent, and one name everyone in Paris keeps talking about, Magnus Akliouche, who's been linked to PSG for over a year now. On our side, PSG arrived confident, stronger than Monaco in almost every area, but still managing injuries, rotations, and facing the always tricky challenge of playing at Ligue. There's even talk of Paul Pogba potentially making an appearance after nearly 2 years away from the pitch. So let's dive in, form, tactics, danger man, predicted 11s, and of course, my match prediction. So Monaco versus PSG this Saturday, 5 p.m. local time in Monaco. Ligue 1 is back, and it is the last of our run of 3 games in a week. And for both teams, the game after Champions League game, obviously we played against Tottenham at home. Monaco went to Cyprus and only managed to get a 2-2 draw against Paphos. And so, yeah, return to Ligue 1, always an interesting one. Always interesting to see how teams manage their fitness levels and kind of their emotional levels after a big European night. And I think in the case of Monaco, they've just they're on a run of, I think, 3 consecutive losses in Ligue 1. So really a horrible run of form, and including the last 2 games, they actually lost 4-1, both of them. So they lost 4-1 at home against Lens, and then they lost 4-1 their last game against Rennes. So a team that's, really not performing at this point versus a PSG team who's doing reasonably well and really managing its form. So a pretty interesting one. And I think for me, that's really going into this game, what the headline looks like. It's a Monaco team that's in crisis versus a PSG team that's in control. And so it should be quite interesting, because at the same time, despite that narrative, obviously a trip to Monaco, it's always a big game and it's always a complicated one, and there's still a lot of talent within this Monaco team, and I'm always a bit nervous about teams who are doing poorly playing against us, because we know it's the games that they mark on their calendars, and where players really want to shine. So it's always a tricky game for us, and a game where the team in difficulty tend to overperform anyway. And for us, obviously, given the place that we're at in terms of fitness, 3 games in the 3rd game in a week, it's always a difficult one as well. I hope we can make it 3 in 3. That'd be amazing. And I think it's been a while since that actually happened. But we're gonna be looking at a lot of rotation. We're gonna be looking at some usual substitutes coming in, usual starters on the bench, and so it's going to be really a Luis Enrique equation of who can we afford to change but still stay on top of this Monaco team. When for them, they actually rotated some of their usual starters in Cyprus for the Champions League. So they might be closer to a full starting 11 than us. And there's a big question on this game as well, which is Magnus Akliouche. I mentioned it in my intro. Obviously, the Monaco right winger, he's been linked with PSG for about a year. He said a few times in the media that he'd be keen to move to PSG, that he loves PSG, that he wants to play for Luis Enrique, and so on. PSG, from what we know, they like the player, but they've never really made a move for him. Last summer, Monaco put in a huge price tag on him, and that kind of stopped the conversation before it even began. But, in the context of the winter mercato coming soon, Akliouche started playing with the French national team as well. So it's a big opportunity for him to shine in this game against PSG, and really get Luis Enrique and Luis Campos to take notice of where he's at. And I think as well, in a Monaco team that's struggling everywhere on the pitch, but struggling offensively by being a little bit, by being a lot inconsistent and sometimes not really performing in games, is really the one who's going to have to step up and take that leadership. I think all of the players around him, none of them are completely settled in their spot on the starting 11. So he is really the one who has to be like the main threat for Monaco in offense. And obviously playing on the right wing, he's going to play against Lucas Hernandez, since we know that Nuno Mendes is not going to be available for this game. You know, Lucas Hernandez is a great defender, but he's not like, you know, he could struggle versus a fast, technical, dribbling player like Akliouche. And so it could spell some trouble for our defense. So it's really a part of the pitch where we're gonna have to pay attention, and we're gonna have to be at full strength and really like be mindful of what Akliouche can do. Beyond that, I think like I'm moving to starting 11 in a second, but I think overall, like I said, like this Monaco team is fairly weak all over the pitch. In defense, they've been a little bit not toothless because they still score goal, but they really lack a lot of quality in terms of unpredictability, in terms of consistency of their players, and in terms of just like being able to create opportunities for themselves. So we'll see what they can do for a game like this. And then in midfield, it's honestly like close to a disaster zone, which is why, you know, the Pogba name keeps popping up. Typically, like their captain and midfielder Zakaria took a red card in the last game, so he's going to be suspended. So we're looking at them playing two 21-year-olds in their central midfield. So against like the PSG midfield, that could be a bloodbath. And then in defense, you know, when you see that Tilo Kehrer is a big guy, Eric Dyer played some game, but he's like kind of injured at this point, so he's probably not going to play. There's a lot of uncertainty, and you know, having seen a few of their recent games, there's a lot of spaces. They're not working well as a unit. Their fullbacks are, you know, pretty dreadful, if I'm honest. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities within this Monaco team for us, and hopefully we can make it a convincing win for PSG. So in terms of starting 11, I'll start with Monaco. So we're looking at Hradecki in goal, who's their like kind of like second goalkeeper, I guess. But their two goalkeepers are neck and neck. Hradecki is like, yeah, not that impressive under pressure. He can do crazy stuff. Not the best at stop shopping as well. They got 2 goals scored on them in Paphos on corners as well. So there's lots of opportunities. Hradecki in goal, probably like, I would say it's funny because like they're in the midst of changing tactical systems. So typically they play 3 at the back, and so it would probably be Kehrer, Salisu, and Caio Henrique. Then like 4 in midfield. So Venderson, Camara, Koulibaly, and then the last one would be a little bit of a question mark. Let me check. Yeah, sorry. The last one on the left would be like Ouattara probably, but he has had a couple of disaster class, so I'm not entirely sure whether he's going to be featuring. Camara and Koulibaly, so 21 years old in the middle, and then in offense, it looks like probably Akliouche and Golovin with Balogun up front. Is where I would put my money. Minamino might feature. He did relatively well in the game against Paphos. Mika Bires is kind of like could play over Balogun, but it doesn't feel that likely right now. So yeah, and Ansu Fati, ex-Barcelona, featured a lot at the beginning of the season, but now like hasn't in the past games. And honestly, he hasn't made such a big positive mark anyway. So I don't think he's gonna be starting anyway. For PSG, so the question mark for PSG is really how much we're gonna have to rotate our team after the Champions League clash against Tottenham. But anyway, we're gonna have Chevalier in goal, that's for sure. We're gonna have Zaire Emery on the right. We're gonna have a central defense. It feels like probably Zabarni Pacho is the most likely of options, with Hernandez on the left, maybe Beraldo, but it feels like it's a little bit of a too big of a game for him right now, so Petro over him. In midfield, the question mark is whether we want to take the chance to rest Vitinha, who's played a lot. Obviously, he had a great game against Tottenham, but the game before that in Ligue 1 against Le Havre wasn't as impressive. So if we do, we'd be looking at a midfield three of Ruiz and Neves, probably Ruiz taking the number 6 spot and Mayulu coming into midfield as well. And then up front, there's a couple of question marks, so probably Lee on the right and Kvara on the left. So Barcola can get some rest. And then in the middle, will Luis Enrique want to play Engine 2 again after the Tottenham game? Is he going to play Ramos? Not impossible. So that one is really a big question mark. Honestly, not entirely sure what would happen. But anyway, this is kind of what we're looking at for this game. I think in terms of prediction, given where the two teams are, I think it should be a win for PSG. I think it should be a pretty convincing one. I think we won 3-0 against Le Havre, 5-3 against Tottenham. We should be able to put easily 3 goals past this team. Maybe they score 1 because Akliouche is a good player and they do have individual quality up front. So maybe a 3-1 or 4-1 seems like a pretty likely result. I'll say exactly what I said before Tottenham, which is this Monaco team is a team that we're better than them. And I feel pretty confident and comfortable in saying that. But at the same time, if we expect an easy game, we're going to make it hard for ourselves. So we need to go in very, very seriously, take it full on, be focused, score as early as we can, and then kind of make the game easy for us. One thing to note as well, one last thing, they had a number of red cards in the recent games. So it's a team that mentally, we should be able to make them lose their mind a little bit, especially if we make them run a bit, they lose a bit of mental clarity. A player like Hernandez, God knows he can be stupid, but also he can be a really a pain in the butt for his opponent. So maybe there's opportunities. There's opportunities for some of their players to go a bit crazy and get sent off a bit early, which would be nice for us. So anyway, big game, Monaco PSG this Saturday, 5 p.m. local time, and then we have a week off after this. So hopefully we win this one, and we've got some time to rest off before the last batch of game until year end. So for now, please like this video if you've made it this far. Let me know in the comment what's your prediction for this game, what kind of score do you expect, and what kind of game do you expect. And obviously, as always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. Please hit the bell to get notified of future videos. And as always, ici c'est Paris!